The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild will soon have been out for 1.5 years, and the next Zelda game is well underway. As such, we decide to look closer at the traditional Castle Town and dungeons, two key areas where the most recent Zelda underdelivered, and come up with some ideas on how these could make for a way better follow-up. But in order to find out what to improve, we have to once again get inside Breath of the Wild. Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another video regarding the future of Zelda after Breath of the Wild. This time around, we will get deep into some of the most polarizing topics in the game, namely the ruined castle town and the somewhat missing dungeons.
Based on several of our previous uploads, you may be well aware that we really want a proper and ambitious HD castle town in a future Zelda title. So much so that we decided to visit the real-life equivalent of Hyrule's Castle Town, the fully walled medieval town of Rothenburg ob der Tauber in Germany. But before we move over there, let's get one point across. We did not dislike the ruined castle town in Breath of the Wild. It fit the post-apocalyptic theme of the game perfectly. It was a somber, devastated, and most guardian-infested location in the game beside Hyrule Castle, which was natural as the lair of Calamity Ganon, which was filled with those bastards. In fact, we have numerous times praised how Breath of the Wild handled the corrupted and ruined castle town, which in some ways was designed better than some areas found in another post-apocalyptic game, namely Fallout 4.
So why don't we want to see another game with a ruined or missing castle town, or even a main town like Majora's Mask's Clock Town or Ocarina of Time's and Twilight Princess's Castle Town? Simple. Because it has already been done in Breath of the Wild, and secondly, for the potential a location like this holds for adding way more content to a future Zelda game. Following games like The Witcher 3 with its own city of Novigrad, medieval fantasy towns in video games have been perceived in a completely different light. As such, we wholeheartedly believe that the next Zelda game, or a sequel to Breath of the Wild, should take advantage of the milestones and examples set by other open-world fantasy developers. Or heck, this video and our experience of Rothenburg ob der Tauber, the ultimate walled medieval town.
This place was just too perfect, as the town is fully walled, full of half-timbered houses, and more importantly the exact same size as an ambitious castle town could have in the next Zelda game. For one, it has big gates. We need some truly impressive but also different town gates demonstrating visitors the power of the Kingdom of Hyrule and its royal family. Yes, we already have the castle, but far from everyone will be able to visit it. Next, we need unique and differing streets with a blend of architecture from classic fantasy half-timbered houses and tenements to more solid stone architecture like the ones found in the market square of Twilight Princess.
All of these streets should lead into the memorable market square, that should be filled with landmarks, in the form of an imposing and much bigger explorable town hall than the one featured in Majora's Mask. A fountain surrounded by statues with an outdoor market and obviously a temple. It could be the Temple of Time, like in Ocarina of Time, but if it is a different temple, it should be located in a side square or even street. Simply put, we need memorable locations like the Plunine found in Rothenburg, where you really could take some really great selfies with the photo function found in the Sheikah Slate or an equivalent. Landmarks and great city squares and views, especially if you can climb buildings like in Breath of the Wild and watch the city from the Town Hall Tower or a temple. Then we have the matter of the inhabitants. As in Breath of the Wild, they were kind of dead. With the post-apocalyptic title out of the way, we once again need a living main town. So needless to say, a proper Zelda town needs people. With the leaps and bounds we have seen to the NPCs in Breath of the Wild, and the player interaction and side quests they can offer, you can only imagine how deep and intricate the main quest portions and side quests in the town could be in either the capital of Hyrule or the biggest town of whatever province we head to next. Let's just say Majora's Mask's Clock Town, but with the technology of the Nintendo Switch in 2018, or scratch that, 2020.
Since we're on the subject of Clock Town, if there's one thing we have truly been missing since Majora's Mask, then it is a town with deep history and intricate lore. This could be told through different quests and ancient scripts, but what we really need is a storyteller, an authoritative and trusted figure like Dampa, or this Night Watchman we had the honor to meet in Rothenburg.
So my name is George, I'm the Night Watchman in Rothenburg since 27 years, and I tell people every day from the medieval life and the experience people made, and plague and diseases and all this hard life they had in these good old days, which were not good at all.
On that note, we believe we have summed up on why we need a proper main town in the next Zelda game and detailed how it would result in an even better Zelda experience. Now guys, time for the big elephant in the room, dungeons.
For one, we need them back. And no, the Divine Beasts were nothing close to the Zelda dungeons we know and love. Sure, Breath of the Wild was about redefining Zelda, but if you're going to redefine dungeons, don't make them worse. They were small, lacking enemies, and they all looked the exact same. If you've been a member of the Commonwealth Realm for a while, you know just how much we absolutely detest the Divine Beasts as dungeons. But how could you make a traditional Zelda dungeon with the open-air elements of Breath of the Wild? Simple. Take a look at Hyrule Castle at the end of the game. This is the perfect example of what a Zelda dungeon could be like in future titles. Hyrule Castle is a maze, filled to the brim with enemies and valuable items such as the Hylian shield. Of course, lots of these obstacles can simply be avoided, such as these Lynel chambers. You don't need to go through them at all if you just climb your way around them. But wouldn't having the ability to go past all of these enemies defeat the purpose of a dungeon? Here's the thing. You would have the option to go straight to the dungeon boss, yes, but it would make the battle a hell of a lot easier if you explored the dungeon, taking on its foes and solving its puzzles. These would reward you with more weapons and items, making it easier to take on the boss. Some of them would be specific to the dungeon and the boss at the end. Speaking of enemies, another thing we really miss about the dungeons and Zelda as a whole were the iconic enemies found in them. While Breath of the Wild brought back Moblins and Bokoblins, we were yearning for the return of Skulltulas, Redeads, and even Wallmasters. Yes, these freaky hands would make your life a living hell if you ever got caught by one, sending you back to the beginning of the dungeon. Matter of fact, Breath of the Wild really didn't have any scary enemies at all, did it? Even the lighthearted Wind Waker didn't hesitate to scare the living shit out of us with their terrifying version of Redeads. Still, we know Eiji Aonuma likes to terrify people, so we're probably going to see the return of some scary enemies, even new ones. Although, the Guardians were kind of scary in the oh shit, I'm absolutely about to die sense of the word. To conclude, dungeons are a major staple of the Legend of Zelda franchise, and while we appreciate the experimentation offered in Breath of the Wild, we would love for traditional dungeons that bring back elements of previous Zeldas while combining the open-endedness of Breath of the Wild. Like we said, look back at Hyrule Castle if you want an example. Then of course, there is the issue of a real castle town making its return in the next installment. So, you made Breath of the Wild a post-apocalyptic experience. That's cool, and it probably made development easier for a revolutionary open-air title, but if the next game follows the same post-apocalyptic setting, we will be very disappointed.
And there you have it, another reminder that we need a proper main town and proper dungeons in the next Zelda game after Breath of the Wild. While visiting Rothenburg of the Tauber, which we highly recommend you do if you have the possibility, we realized that there's so much more to a medieval town than just buildings, walls, or stores. It's about the people. It's about the history, the lore. And this is exactly what we need in the Zelda franchise. So if you're listening to this Eiji Aonuma, Take note, because you can make an even better Zelda experience than Breath of the Wild. But what do you think? Do we need a proper town and or proper dungeons for the next HD open air game of the Breath of the Wild? Leave your reply in the comment sections below.
We would also appreciate if you like this video, and if you are new, subscribe to our channel and press the notification bell to not miss any of our Nintendo Switch, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and also Zelda videos, including our Zelda Villains Timeline, which will go up in early August. So look forward to that. Finally, we want to thank all of our patreon.com/commonrealm patrons, and in particular, our Patreon royal producer Kenyatta Ali, for their generous support to our channel. You can join in on the fun by heading over to patreon.com/commonrealm. In the meantime, girls and guys, we will see you in the next one as we now head for Italy and most importantly, Venice.